Good morning, good morning. This is Lady Danny from Land of Gentry's Handcrafted Essential Oil Soap, coming to you live from the Royal Borough of South Philadelphia. Today I'm in the kitchen because I am making Astragalus in both a tincture as well as an elixir. If you were with me on Monday, then you heard me discuss Astragalus, which is one of those longevity tonic herbs used in well, if I can actually get my tripod set up, it'll be a different view. So there we go. So we talked about Astragalus being one of those tonic herbs that's traditionally used in traditional Chinese medicine, but it can also be really helpful for just anybody. And it's one of those herbs that you can take for a long period of time because it's an adaptogenic, which means that whatever your issue is, it will kind of adapt to it. So if you're feeling stressed out, it will help to calm you, but it also just puts your body in balance so that if you have been out of sorts for a while, it helps to get you in a balanced place. I mean, that's the whole point of disease, is it's dis-ease. It's not being at ease or in balance with your body. So we talked about Astragalus, and it is a root. Now, normally when, how will it taste? Actually, it doesn't have much of a, compared to other herbs that can be bitter or have a really funky taste, Astragalus is very mild. There's kind of like a honey mildness to it, but it's fantastic as a root, and because it does have kind of a not unpleasant but kind of a non-taste, you can use it as a tea very easily. It blends with other things. You can also use it in soups or stews. So if you just want to get the extra boost of the polysaccharides, which we've discussed helps with things like blood sugar management, as well as can help fight, it's got great antioxidants. It's also been shown to be neuroprotective. So if you want to take advantage of all those and you're really not a tea drinker, then you can certainly add it to soups and stews. But it is very fibrous. I mean, it looks like soft and downy and puffy, but trust me, you can choke and gag on this. So it's one of those things that if you are using it as a tea, you definitely want the shredded root so you can get the most value out of it. But it also comes in longer strips. So if you're cooking with it, I would suggest using that instead. Okay, so today, for people that don't like tea or people that don't want to have it in their soups and stews, it's fantastic to make up as a tincture or elixir because then you can keep it in your home herbal mountain rose herbs, certified organic, and you can get most of the herbs and things that I use, I can get from them, unless there are certain particular things I go with local producers only because I like to support small farmers, and if they're doing things that are without toxins and without pesticides, but they don't have the money to be certified organic, I will certainly give them a shot and see what the quality is like. Okay, so in order to start this process, one of the things that we talked about was in order to extract the polysaccharides, when you're normally making a tincture, all you have to do is put the plant matter in a jar, fill it with alcohol, let it sit for anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. I like more like the 4 to 6 week area. Shake it around, pour out your herbs, just strain it well, and then there you have it. You have your tincture. But with things that have heavy polysaccharides like Astragalus, the alcohol doesn't extract the positive things out of it as well. The best way to do that is through water. So you need to make a tea to start with. So instead of just dumping this in and pouring alcohol on top, you need to make a strong tea to start with. So that's what we're going to do is 4 ounces by volume of Astragalus, and I'm dumping that into, I have just boiled my kettle, so I do have 1 cup of hot water here for tea. Now, because it is a root, technically when you're making a tea, you're putting some kind of leaf matter in hot water and just letting it steep. When you have something like a root, even though it's shredded as well as this was, it is called a decoction. And what you're going to do is you're going to put it into hot water, and you need to let it cook for a while. Usually I would say 15 to 20 minutes to try and get the best extract out of it. So what you're going to do, let me just pull you down a little bit. Let's go over and down. Yes, I make my own sound effects. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come here. So then you strain. Yes, we're going to come here, and this is what it looks like in the pan. You're going to let that sit and boil for like 15 to 20 minutes. I did about 25 this morning, and then what you're going to do is take that out and strain. 4 ounces of Astragalus by volume, so it's measured in a measuring cup. It's not weighed out. Whatever you do when you're making your products, whether it's for home use or for sale, make sure that you stay volume by volume and weight by weight. That means if I'm adding 4 ounces of astragalus, I want to make sure that these are 4 ounces that I've measured out in a measuring cup, not by weight, because then if you do 4 ounces by weight, first of all, it would be an awful lot more than this. And second of all, then you would have to do 4 ounces by weight of water, which is a whole different story. So just stick with, if you're going to do weight, stick with weight. If you're going to do volume, stick with volume. So this is 8 ounces of water, 4 ounces of astragalus. I'm going to let that cook until it gets strong, okay? Once that happens, I would strain out the plant matter and just leave the tea. Once you're left with the tea, in order to preserve it as an elixir, you are going to need to add sugar. I've already done that because you want to do it at a temperature when it's warm enough that the sugar completely becomes incorporated with the mix. And I'll show you this one. So here's one I made earlier. This has got the sugar already in it, and as you can see, it has thickened up. So by the time I strained it and then put the sugar in, so why not honey? You can, with an elixir, use honey instead, but then technically it's not an elixir anymore, it's a melite because you've added the honey. But you do need either sugar or honey in because these things act as a natural preservative. That's why these old recipes, I'm sorry for people that are on the health kick and want to get away from white sugar and honey, but when you're dealing with old recipes, this is what you have to deal with. What I had was 4 ounces of this tea, I measured out, and then to that I added 4 ounces of sugar, okay? And then it preserves, absolutely. Then what you do, altogether I'm left with 2/3 of a cup. So what I need to do then is add equal parts of whatever I'm left with here of alcohol. Now here is the deal. Alcohol is another thing. Sorry. If you're saying like, oh, can I add? No. If you add thing like vegetable glycerin, and it becomes a glycerite. And with those, it doesn't have the same preserved powers, so you're going to probably need to keep it in the refrigerator to stay safe. So I am now adding, because basically now what this is an astragalus syrup. So if you're just a person that you're like, okay, that's good enough, I don't want to add anything else, fine. Take the astragalus syrup, put that in your refrigerator, and then every day, if you just want to take a tablespoon of it, or if you want to add it to your tea, so you're getting the benefits of astragalus out of it, you can certainly do that. I'm fine with that. But in order for it to be an elixir, you're going to need to add the alcohol. Here's the short version of it. When you see something that says 80 proof, 80 proof is not how much alcohol is in this bottle. This is really 40% alcohol by volume, okay? So what I'm going to do, and that doesn't mean anything to you right now, but it will when I tell you about the difference between this and just doing a tincture. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is add 2/3 of a cup. Where's my marking? Make sure that I'm not going over. Yes, 2/3 of a cup of this 80 proof or 40 volume alcohol to my syrup, which has the astragalus and the sugar that has been fully incorporated. And now that is going to be my elixir. Okay? So pretty much if I was making an elixir, this is it. I'm done. What I generally do is I like things to synergize, to really get together, especially since I've just added the alcohol. So I would put it in a mason jar. I'm not going to put this in a bright window or anything like that. I'm just going to put it on a table. I'm going to give it a good shake. I'm going to let it sit. That is going to be the elixir. And what you do with an elixir is you can take anything from a few drops of it to 3 dropper full. Know that it's fantastic for just overall health every day. If you just want to take a couple of drops every day because you don't want to have the aggro of having to, you know, drink the tea, or if you just don't want to travel with like shredded up root matter and have like people at TFA, especially if you fly a lot, looking at you like, what the heck is this and what are you doing? This is a much easier way to do it. And then you can simply decant it into 1 ounce I like to do the smaller ones because not only for packaging for what I sell on Etsy, but also for gifts and giveaways, because if people like it, they'll come back for more and they'll look for it in a bigger bottle. But just for people that are starting out, I think like 1 ounce is a good size. An ounce is going to give you a pretty good amount. An ounce equates to 600 drops. The difference between this, because you recommend the mountain rose herbs as a source for Astragalus. Yes, that's where mine came from. So I do recommend them. And because actually before Rosemary Gladstar started doing a lot more, a lot of other different things, including training and things that she was one of the people that started that. So they have good quality, and pricing, I have to say, is pretty good. Now, I'm not going to lie, if I can forage for it, I'd rather do that. But Astragalus root, as we discussed on Monday, it used to be exclusively in China. There are about 1,000 different species or varieties of Astragalus. Only 2 are really used in traditional medicine making, so it's really important that you get the right one, and they actually do have the Astragalus membranaceus if you want to buy that. Okay, now the difference between that and if I was making a tincture, I still need to go through the same process. Make a strong decoction, because like we said, that if you're using a leaf, it's tea. If you're using a root and it has to cook longer, that's a decoction. So for that, what I would do is I would take this Astragalus, I would strain out the herb, and I would be left with a strong tea. I don't really want to dump this right now because it's not finished and I want to be able to use this later. But what you would do then, and this is where knowing the, you can see my face now, I'm done with the thing. Knowing the volume of alcohol versus the proof is really important. Say, if you had, out of this, you strained out the matter, and you had 1 cup of your strong tea, all right? And then you added 1 cup of 80 proof vodka. That is going to bring you down to 80 proof vodka, as we discussed, is really only 40% alcohol by volume. So by adding equal amounts of tea and vodka, you're already taking this vodka from 40 volumes to 20. And 20 is the minimum that you need if you want your tincture to stay viable. So it's really important that you know if you're using grain alcohol, which is 100 proof, then you know starting off, it's really only 50 alcohol by volume. So if you split that in half by adding equal amounts of tea, then you're going to be down to 25, which is fine. But it really is important that you stay above 80 proof, which is 40 alcohol by volume, 40% alcohol by volume, and that when you're adding other things to it, you take that in consideration as to what your ratio is going to be. You need a final amount of at least 20% alcohol by volume in order to keep your tincture stable and viable. Once you do that, and then you can go ahead and, just as before, you would take your final mixture. Of course, it won't have the sugar in it, and you can decant it in your small bottles. You're good to go. As long as you keep it just like you would keep essential oils, as long as you keep it out of direct light, as long as you keep it somewhere where the temperature is not going to fluctuate. So no bathroom cabinets where it gets like humid and then crazy. None of that. Preferably not in like the hottest room in your house. Just keep it somewhere where it's going to be shelf stable. And if you do that for tinctures, I'm not going to say forever, but you do get a really long time out of it. And for elixirs, which is the one that also has sugar in it to help preserve it. But with elixirs, I did a Damiana one just like this last year in April, and I took it the other day, perfectly fine. And that was without refrigeration. That was just putting it, I have a larder that I put them in so it stays out of bright light. But you know, you'll be able to tell. If you open it and it smells funky, then don't use it, obviously. You're going to have much less of an issue with tincture because you're not going to have the sugar in it. You're only going to have the alcohol and the tea, and the alcohol acts as a natural preservative, so you'll be fine on that for at least a year. I say some tinctures I have rolling around that are, when I first started making, about 2.5, 3 years ago. So that would be great. Do I ever do workshops? You know what? If somebody in Philadelphia ever wanted me to, I'm totally up for that. Yeah, I'd be up for it at some point. So, and this is just a quick way of showing you all how to do it so that if you are interested. So that is it. So I hope now you have the basics and you understand the difference between making a tincture that just involves the herb And generally, like I said, this is a specific, because when you're dealing with herbs, and I wish I could remember all of them off the top of my head to tell you the herbs that are high in polysaccharides, because those herbs definitely need the water to extract it. So you have to start with the tea. When we're talking about other herbs, like if you just want to make a thyme extract or something like that, you can just whack that in a jar, fill it with alcohol, let it sit, like I said, anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. Some people say 2. I usually do the 4 to 6 weeks because I really want to get the maximum extract out of it, and then you strain the herb and then you have your tincture. But for ones that have polysaccharides, you have to start with the tea so that the water helps to extract all the beneficial matter and constituents out of the herb. And then you can use that tea to then make your elixir and to make your tincture. That is it for today. Thanks for coming in. If you come on Friday, Friday is Health Focus Friday, where we talk about other things that are in the news about health and discuss how we feel about them. But also, and this is for next week, just a heads up, I used magnesium oil last year, and I do like it because it's one of the things that has not only helped me, but it's also helped my husband. He used to wake up in the middle of the night with leg cramps. It's very easy to make. Although if you see it on Amazon, it's going to cost you a lot more if you buy it as a done spray. So I'm going to teach you how to do it. It is so simple, easy. We've talked about it before, so that'll be something that you can learn to make and use yourself, because let's face it, between what is left in the earth soil by the time we've stripped and mined and everything, people are not getting a large enough amount of magnesium anymore in their diets. So the ability to have it done as a spray, especially something that's absorbed readily through your skin, probably better through your skin than if you started adding supplements into your diet, and it's a really quick one to do. So we will do that Wednesday of next. That is it. I will see you on Friday. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, just try and be better people, and have a great Wednesday. See you then.